Welcome to the Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists. My name is Donna Klemke, and I'll be your service leader this morning. If you're visiting, please participate as you feel comfortable, and you're invited to stay and enjoy some snacks with us and conversation after the service. Our congregation is committed to individual freedom of belief and welcomes diversity, seeks to promote a sense of community, and fosters religion which enriches the spirit. We're mostly a lay-led community, strengthened and enriched by weaving together our volunteer contributions of members and friends. Our community is supported and guided by our minister, Reverend Victoria Poling. As we begin our service, please take a couple of deep breaths and bring attention to this moment where we will have communal reflection and sharing. We're clear in our desire to acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Swabish Coast Salish Native people. The Puyallup and Muckleshoot people have lived on and stewarded these lands for the last 10 to 12,000 years since humans made their way here from Asia, and they continue to steward these lands today. We commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories, as well as promoting social justice actions for and with the indigenous people of this land and beyond. Of the 8 principles that we Unitarian Universalists follow, today's program is a This I Believe program, and it aligns with our 4th principle, which is that we all engage in the free and responsible search for meaning, for truth and meaning, in our lives. So I'd like to invite Amy Huggins to come forward to light our chalice and read our opening words. We've got lots of people coming up today, so there's lots of paper up here. I know, I almost did.
These lighting, chalice words are from John O'Donohue. Awaken to the mystery of being here, and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Respond to the call of your gift and the courage to follow this path. May warmth of heart keep your presence aflame, and you may experience every day as a gift woken around the heart of this day. Thank you so much.
We've got to light the chalice. You may have heard the old UU joke. The reason UUs don't sing well is because they are reading ahead in the hymnal to see if they agree with the words. To relax for listening, join us in singing meditation and breathing. And there are fancier arrangements of this song, but today we'll sing the basic version. Although it's in the teal hymnal, we don't have them with us because today we don't need them. We're going to be led in the song. So stand up if you're able, and or remain seated and follow our song leaders. So I have in my script, let's show Julia, our speaker, that UUs can sing.
So I will be leading this side, and Kirk a few times through, and then I'll do mine a few times through, and then we'll do our thing.
Okay.
How's that?
And our words, and the reason I have the script is that I may forget it, but it's breathe in, breathe out, and that's it. And
It's the timing. It's the timing,
Yeah.
right?
yes.
Are we going to do it with music or just a cappella? I can come here. Okay.
Mm,
Well, would you like me to play his note, our note?
Yeah. Or just start. All right.
breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Excellent. Okay, and this side, over the top of that, we're going to be singing. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. So let's start with you, and then
Doesn't it start after, well,
you just go the whole time.
Breathe in, breathe out.
and then that goes when I breathe in, breathe. It just, does that matter?
Oh.
See?
No, these
Oh,
are at the
right
same
here.
time.
So that's the same time. Okay, good. Got it. My musicality. You start first.
Okay. When I breathe in, I
Breathe out.
when I breathe out, I breathe out.
Breathe out.
When I breathe
Breathe in.
I breathe in.
Breathe out.
When I breathe out,
Breathe in.
I breathe out.
Breathe out.
When I breathe
Breathe in.
I breathe in.
Breathe out.
When I breathe out, I breathe out.
Breathe out. Breathe in.
I breathe in.
Breathe out.
When I breathe
Breathe in.
I breathe out.
Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out.
This is when we know that leadership is really important. This morning, as we said, is the second of our This I Believe programs for this year. And Amy Huggins will come up again to introduce our speaker, Julia Lakey.
Is something written or I'm. Oh, thank you. It's a surprise. Well, Julia and I first met, I believe, in yoga. Yeah, great. Anyway, she's a very steady, gentle, thoughtful, in case you haven't experienced this, kind person in my life. And she also is somebody who has a lot of trust in her heart for this life journey, having survived 2 husbands already and taken care of both of them also. And we all probably know at this stage in our lives that caregiving is challenging. So I just really appreciate Julia that she sees this life and moves forward in a way to take care of herself and her whole community. I'm looking forward to what she believes also.
Thank you. That was very sweet. So, for my opening reading, this comes from God Makes the River to Flow by Eknath Esron. Everybody, okay, if I drop off, give me a up signal. Okay. I studied with Esron. He was my first meditation teacher. This is a reading from the Katha Upanishads. It's a sacred Hindu text that goes back to the 5th century BCE, and it references the self with a capital S. Hidden in the heart of every creature exists the self, subtler than the subtlest, greater than the greatest. They go beyond all sorrow who extinguish their self-will and behold the glory of the self through the grace of the Lord of love. When the wise realize the self, formless in the midst of forms, changeless in the midst of change, omnipresent and supreme, they go beyond all sorrow. So as a fairly new member of this community, I appreciate the opportunity to be better known. And for those on Zoom or accessing my talk later, thanks for participating. So I organized this around the guideposts in my life. What are the milestones in my spiritual and ethical development? So this is not viewed through the lens of formal faith formation. It's instead the awarenesses that I've developed that have emerged from examining my own life experiences. So, childhood innocence, exploration. I grew up in a magical place with loving, stable parents. I lived at the end of a dirt road in the San Fernando Valley in Southern California. There were railroad tracks that bordered our property, and they opened up to hundreds of acres of sage and sumac and granite boulders. I mean, what could be more ideal for a kid? The Chaparral Wilderness stretched over mountains into the next valley. I had 4 older male cousins up the road, and they taught me assertiveness. Either play tough or go home. And appreciate solitude as an only child in my adopted family. My dog was my constant companion. We roamed outdoors together almost every day, and my dog was my protector and lookout. So I never feared living at the edge of wilderness. He interpreted and checked out unusual sounds and any animals that emerged from the bushes. So I became a naturalist, even though I didn't know the term until years later. So besides assertiveness and belonging, this developed my keen awareness of the natural world. And I also learned not to take anything in my home environment for granted. A rattlesnake could have come down for water. Tarantulas and black widows were on the move. We had skunk, possum, bobcats, all kinds of creatures that would emerge from the chaparral. They all intrigued me, and I respected their powers. As for schooling, I went to an Episcopal day school during my elementary years. And although I studied the religious formalities, it never sank into my core. Maybe it was too many chapel times with hundreds of squirming kids busy pummeling each other or pulling parts of their clothing away from a neighbor until an adult came to silence them. But one of my biggest discoveries in high school was Socrates. His comment that the unexamined life is not worth living became a guidepost for me that continues to this day. I set off for a Lutheran college nearby, attracted by the small student body and the campus tucked below Wilderness. And the campus pastor became a best friend, continuing until his death. But I never attended a service in 4 years of college there. Tells you something, huh? I decided to become a teacher of a special population, but what group? I met the founder of the National Theater of the Deaf and decided that learning sign language and about deaf culture intrigued me. I married my high school sweetheart during college. At age 18, I was running a college dormitory of 200 wild California kids. So my sense of responsibility was definitely recognized by the administration. My husband and I headed to graduate school together to train as teachers of the deaf, and I developed deaf and hearing friends in my first job teaching deaf students. I learned of the pride that most deaf people feel about their community rather than seeing hearing loss as a disadvantage. That was the first time that I began to understand dominant culture versus smaller cultural groups and kind of the tensions that could be between those two. And I alienated some of my administrators with my assertions about changing the curriculum. So I needed to learn strategy and tactfulness. We moved to the Seattle area and discovered Vashon a year later. We bought a 1918 farmhouse while the Seattle billboards announced, "Will the last person to leave Seattle please turn out the lights?" We all remember that if you go back far enough. The house needed total renovation, and we taught ourselves as we left, as we moved along in that process. Taking on tough challenges has been the way I've developed new skills. I started a program to teach English to adult refugees who resettled after the Vietnam War ended. It was both a joyful and a healing experience. I had such anger about the role of our government and so many wounded friends or deceased friends who never came home from the war. And working with refugees healed me, helping those newcomers succeed. Those teaching years deepened my understanding of, again, of various cultures and the difficulties of adjusting to a new country. And teaching resources were almost non-existent, so I started writing grants to develop textbooks for ESL, which I co-wrote. I specialized in vocational ESL. What are the language needs and the cultural understandings to hold a first job in a new country? And as an innovator, I became a national and international expert. Along the way, I added an ESL degree, and I was hired to help communities develop resources for newly arrived refugees. And I traveled between Colorado and Hawaii, working with all of the refugee groups and community support groups in those areas. And then I was offered a consulting job in the camps overseas for the refugees bound just for the U.S. So I consider one of my major achievements developing the camp's curriculum. And it's estimated that about 100,000 adult refugees experienced my curriculum before coming to the United States. And that provided them a healthy head start to participate in entry-level jobs and provide for their families. My daughter at the time was under 2, and all that travel became very stressful on family life. So I withdrew from that and started teaching high school. And I ended up teaching many populations: dropout prevention, special needs, English, humanities. And when I stepped back and reflected on the range of my teaching experience, I realized that what I was doing is seeking out populations that lacked advocacy in the system. My work helped level the playing field for them. And along the way, I learned so much from my students. So around the age of 30, my spiritual focus took on 2 developments. I started meditating regularly, and I realized that I could not continue being the person that other people expected me to be, even if that ruptured relationships. I had to be authentic to my true self, and I had to look for inner guidance. My husband did not approve of these spiritual activities, and it widened a rift between us. I also began to contribute to Vashon community life, which my husband also didn't like because, again, I was away from home too much, according to him. So during this time, I became aware of what I've come to call my voice of wisdom. When I examine difficulties or I have to make an important decision, there's a calm inner voice that offers a resolution in a timely fashion. Not necessarily call response, but just putting it out there and waiting until the timing is right and then feeling that voice of wisdom. And that's been a touchstone in the decade since. So just for fun, I decided to list, I've been here almost half a century on Vashon, the kinds of community activities that I've been part of here. And I put them in chronologic order. So I've been on the community council as a representative. I became an active member of the Episcopal Church after my divorce. I got involved in service and outreach activities. I ran a monthly team of the Wednesday night dinners, which was a community feeding program. I co-founded Zero Waste Vashon 10 years ago. I organized weekly meditation centers at the Senior Center for 2 years. I started 350 Vashon, which has been discontinued since, but we still have 350 internationally, to encourage efforts to reduce dependency on fossil fuel. And then I spearheaded successful efforts to certify Vashon as a wildlife habitat community. And that involved education and involvement of property owners to certify that their land benefited wildlife. I started the pollinator garden at Matsuda Farm, which is now in its 4th year, as a demonstration garden about the benefits of pollinators. And I became the native plant expert in the garden club. So if you look at the scope of those activities, the majority of them are community activities focused on restoring the earth. Excuse me. One project that I spearheaded for a neighbor was because she needed a liver transplant. Nancy lived alone and she couldn't secure caregivers to stay with her for extended times after the surgery to make sure that the transplant was successful. So the medical team refused to put her on the list. And you know that that means a death sentence. And that really energized me. The injustice of that just had me bridling. And I felt certain that the Vashon community could respond since she didn't have the funds to pay caregivers. So I called everyone I knew who was a likely helper. We met in my living room and we worked out our support. And the medical team accepted our volunteer caregiver group, which included a retired nurse. I mean, I went far afield to have a really qualified team, and Nancy got her new liver. And again, that is just one more sign of what an incredible community this is. So as a single parent, I was free to continue developing spiritual tools. And I spent time at a meditation center in California, and I worked at a retreat center called Holden Village in the Cascade Wilderness during various summers. My spiritual toolbox includes various meditation techniques and wisdom from Christianity, Buddhism, and Hinduism. My awareness has been shaped by challenging life circumstances. I needed to be authentic even when it dealt me the major setback of divorce. Yoga has been a regular part of my life for 30 years, and my primary teacher has been Amy Huggins, who is so gifted in balancing work on different parts of the body so that I don't leave in pain. I need yoga for all its physical benefits, and I equally need it as a spiritual discipline. You can't worry about your shopping list or anything else when you are attempting to be upright on one leg. You've got to focus on your breath and stay centered. So, my second husband, Steve Self, developed Parkinson's disease 5 years into our marriage. And that disease was like a third member of our ongoing relationship. Everything had to be taken into account to balance that. Later on, he went through a year of constant medical misdiagnoses until he was hospitalized and finally diagnosed with the cancer of multiple myeloma. And the oncologist said, he's 4 weeks from death. His spinal tumors were radiated and he began monthly cancer treatments. And after 3 years of treatment, it was too overwhelming for him and he entered hospice. I share these specifics with you because caring for a spouse with chronic and debilitating symptoms changes you and it changes the relationship. You have to look out for the needs of a partner who may not be able to adequately communicate the difficulties they're experiencing. You know, there's a term among caregivers of being hyper-vigilant, and you have to balance that because you might not even start sleeping regularly because you're in this state of vigilance. But even as Steve weakened, our bond of love deepened, and it was teamwork like nothing else I've ever experienced. Steve taught me so much, even in his later years, especially in his later years. Again, I observed his actions because he was a humble person. He didn't brag about his decisions. But at his death, he had slightly more personal possessions than Gandhi. He gave away his books, he gave away his music, he gave away most of his musical instruments, which was a huge piece of his life. He made arrangements for his favorite saxophone to be used by a deserving student musician annually. So if you hear a student concert at Vashon High School, you're hearing an instrument of Steve's played through a deserving student. He released everything he could no longer use as his symptoms increased. Once he said regretfully, "I won't be able to teach my grandkids to play catch." And I answered, "Yes, but they're learning from you how to be authentic and loving in a failing body." And maybe for many of us in our senior years, that's one of our major lessons. I lost another life partner, Larry Engel, to cancer in 2022. Losing 2 life partners in 5 years traumatized me. I felt safe enjoying family and friends, but a future partnership was just risking too much loss. But a confident, loving man helped me set aside my fears and my reluctance. So we've embarked on enjoying our families, Vashon life, and adventures together. The final spiritual influence in my life is Ekam. E-K-A-M. Amy introduced me to Ekam, and I looked more deeply because of our friendship. Based in India, the community provides spiritual tools so people can break free of suffering patterns and be alive to this moment. And I'm grateful for that variety of support and tools. I believe that I can keep deepening my spiritual practices with Ekam's support. And finally, I feel supported by the community in this room. I began coming to the Unitarian services during COVID, and it helped with the isolation. And this is a very welcoming community. I can no longer, from any other tradition, recite creeds or anything else that I don't personally believe. And so I appreciate the principles that guide Unitarians and the rituals and changing themes that we explore. As a questioning person, this is a good fit for me. And I appreciate being the first speaker in this month's theme of liberating love. So I'd like to close by guiding you in a short meditation. Would you please close your eyes and place your hands over your heart and breathe evenly and deeply for a few breaths. And as you continue breathing, feel that whole heart space in you fill with the warmth of love and compassion. And now send out a bit of that love to someone you know. And in another breath or two, send out some love and compassion for suffering. anybody you know, any place you know that is suffering. And in a final release, send that love out. Just see it rolling over our green planet anywhere it's going to find a place to nestle. And feel the sense that this is an inexhaustible source. We can always renew ourselves in this love. And in another breath or two, you can open your eyes and return.
Thank you so much, Julia. Let's hold a moment of contemplation and worship. An old English word that means to consider things of worth in a generous and abundant silence. And the silence will end with a musical response on the harp by Leslie. Boy, we're lucky. And I want to acknowledge that we all entered this space differently today because people rearranged our place to be, and it's so nice looking out this western window with this lovely screen. I just want to express my appreciation. So please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me. And it's in your gray hymnal, number 346. So we'll now pause the recording as we prepare our hearts, and let's join together in singing There Is the Love. We'll now resume recording as we finish the service and start the offertory. As members and friends of the Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists, we commit to supporting our congregation. Financial resources help us pay for speakers, staff, and support our local justice, our social justice programs, and maintain our building. So please support VIUU with your pledges and offerings so that we can continue to be a vital community. Our congregation engages beyond our walls for peace, social and economic justice, freedom of belief, and protection of our planet and its inhabitants. Once a month, we contribute the financial offering to an organization that aligns with our values, but this week it will be for our fellowship and for our activities. So the greeters are going to be passing around baskets, and as we receive our offering, please join in singing We Give Thanks. And that is also in the cover of, inside the cover of your gray hymnal. I'd like to, let's see, hold on just a second. Before we end the service, we're doing something a little different today. Let's sing one more song. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 118, This Little Light of Mine. Now, you may not need your hymnal for this. And I'd like to introduce Jerry Gerke right now, and he'll read the closing words. Okay? Do you have him, Jerry? Okay.
Thank you, Donna. More words from John Donahue. Is that better? Okay. Okay, here we go. May we have the courage to take the step into the unknown that beckons us. Trust that a richer life awaits us there. Feel the deeper knowing in us. Sure of all that is about to be born. Out of our soul's desire.
Thank you to Julia Lakey, Amy Huggins, Jerry Gerke, Leslie McMichael, Ann Lewis, Alex Clark, and Judith Whitney for participating in today's service here at Lewis Hall and online. It takes a village. And do please join us for refreshments. Now, you know, this is not on the program that I was given, but I think it's Pencil birthday day today. Okay. So will all those who have birthdays this month come up? It's a very important.
all year for this moment.
Okay.
Somebody else. Oh, Donna. It's Donna. That's who it is.
Oh boy. It's another year and you can tell. Oh gosh. Does anybody have an announcement related to VIUU today? Okay.
The book club is meeting the third Sunday of each month, and this month's was America, a history of the 11 rival regional cultures that exist in North America. And they've divided the country up into freedom, Yankeedom, the far west, the east, west coast, the greater Appalachian, the deep south, and they describe all the differences that came from these different people that came from different places in the world and settled and things. But my husband said he grew up on the East Coast. I grew up here on the West Coast in Washington State. And I never learned any of this stuff, but they're talking about during the Revolutionary War, everybody was at odds. I mean, I thought, everyone would be behind, George Washington and fighting for freedom from the British. And no, they all had different thoughts, and they had different, half of them weren't fighting for freedom. It's just been fascinating to me, because I thought, I didn't know all this stuff. They weren't all doing this. But it's fascinating, all these different cultures. And I just worked in Appalachia and saw all these people that came from different areas, and was working in Washington, D.C., and I was working all over the country at the U.S. Department of Education. And it really is true. There are a lot of differences between us, but we all have things in common, too. But anyway, read it. It's going to be the third Sunday, I think, is the 21st, Sunday the 21st. Anyway, sometime around there. But anyone that can, get the book and read it, and we'll have some great discussions about these interesting things.
Hey everyone, the Vashon Unitarian Universalists have a women's group, and it needs meets on Wednesday. This month it will be on the 17th, so not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday after, because we have tickets to the Book of Mormon. So, so it'll be at my house at 6 o'clock on, and we usually do a potluck, and I'll have some sort of magic brew in my crock pot. So all of the women identified in the community are welcome.
So that's just the third Wednesday this month, and normally it's the second Monday. Yes. I mean, second Wednesday. Thank you, everyone. Just a reminder, the fourth Sunday Connecting Views potluck lunch after the service will be, of course, on the fourth Sunday, which is January 28th, and this sign up is up on the in the kitchen on the bulletin board there. And we already have few signer-uppers already. It'll be our first one this month.
And the UUs also have a men's group to go along with the women's group. So that'll be meeting this Thursday here at 7 o'clock. And all the men in the congregation are invited to come. And if you'd like to bring food, we're always happy to have food. Food's a good thing. Yeah, as Julia said this morning, nutrition, and it's important. And Amarjeet can testify to that, because she eats good Indian food, which is outstanding, because I've had some.
Hi, my name's Catherine. I'm going to give a teaser for next Sunday, the 14th. The Social Justice Crew is organizing it, and we are honored to welcome Karnjit Dewali. Apologies for mispronunciation. She's a counselor at the Evergreen College and Community. She's also a community leader in Pierce County, helping Black and brown families who have been impacted by the prison system. She's helping them transition back into the community. She's going to be joined by Juniper Rodney again. I shouldn't be the one pronouncing these. She was just elected to the Vashon School District. She's also an activist and organizer focused on racial equality. They will be partnering with us to create a courageous and gracious space where we can discuss race and other intersecting systems of oppression. Our musician will be Kat Egelstein. And then also keep an eye out in the newsletter. There's going to be a link to a YouTube video that's a good primer for Sunday's discussion. It's an ML King interview that he did right before he passed away. Also, it's a special Sunday. After the service, we're going to be doing more to honor Burl. We're going to be joined by her daughter, Kathleen. So hope to see you on Sunday. So if you guys go to Thriftway or IGA, there's receipt box in the back. Just a reminder to bring us your receipts.
It's January, and as if we don't have enough social events after listening to everybody, Circle Dinner. It's the month for Circle Dinner again, and we don't have a hosting family yet. So if you're interested, let me know. It's really a lovely experience, too. Whatever the host wants to choose. Amy, would you like to host? I think Amy just raised her hand, don't you? Amy, I'd love to go to your house. Well, you get to choose. So, Amy, let's talk. And we'll get a sign-up sheet by 11:15. Thank you. If Amy can't do it, but you're interested in hosting, it's always a lovely time. Yes.
On the calendar, it says guests at the table. Is that actually happening on the 17th or the 18th?
Guests at the table as often happens in the fall. Yeah, we have done the guest at the table. But watch out if you raise your hand. You never know.
I have a brief announcement, has kind of a tangent to this organization because there are so many Rotarians and former Rotarians in our group. Tomorrow at the theater at 4 o'clock, they're going to be broadcasting the national title game with some local universities involved in it. $10 a person. The proceeds are split equally between the Rotary Club and the Chamber of Commerce. They did this for the semifinals, and they're doing it again for the finals. So 4 o'clock tomorrow at the theater, $10 a person, and the proceeds stay here on the island because it's split between the Rotary Club and the Chamber. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim, and there was confusion, thank you, Cynthia, about the guest at our table. Being a new UU, I didn't really understand what the game plan was, and so Ann and I were going to do it in January, but then the fourth Sunday potlucks came up, and that sounds like more fun than guests at our table, so until further notice, there's no guests at our table thing happening. We'll just do the fourth Sunday potluck. Okay? Okay. Thank you. Jerry is going to come up and read the poem or the piece that he read, just to bring us back to the ideas that we worked around and with and are thinking about today.
Thank you, Donna. That'll teach you to open your mouth, Amy. We'll be there. Words by John Donahue. May we have the courage to take the step into the unknown that beckons us. Trust that a richer life awaits us there. Feel the deeper knowing in us. Sure of all that is about to be born out of our soul's desire. Thank you.
So we can enjoy also Leslie's piece. So let's enjoy some conversation and treats.